Hola, my people. I look like shit. Feel like shit too. This is gonna be my first clip, sort of combating with the atheists, uh, directly engaging the concept of God, which, I mean, that's really an ultimate purpose for me, sort of. I know that I told some of you guys, anybody that's watching from the initiative, that I intended to make the video for the nihilism clip regarding the gathering between the Alex and Rachel and the other dude. I don't know his name, but that clip was like an hour and 40 minutes, and they pretty much just kind of like dragged on with this really pretentious kind of gibberish that they didn't really say much of anything. It was like Rachel said about the spirit sign clip. There was a whole lot of words, but not really any content. And in fact, Rachel was the star of that show, honestly. And I am going to make a response to that, but just to this one's out of left. I was playing a playlist of videos, and this dude's video, this Viced Rhino dude, he played this is a response clip to 10 not quite undeniable, I'm not going to say not always facts. It's either 10 not quite undeniable facts or 10 undeniable not always facts. I'm not going to use both because it's fucking redundant and it ruins the title. And I don't like the way it sounds. It's just not rhetorically sound. And 10 not quite undeniable facts that oh, there's more, that don't really prove God is real. 10, this is his response to 10 undeniable facts that prove God is real, which is, that one is just, that was a poorly constructed video. I mean, where do these people come up with this shit? I'm gonna give you 10 readings of scripture from the Bible, or 10 incidents wherein it seems as though God might be in play, and that proves it. It doesn't come close. And people have raised these arguments hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times before. So it's like, I mean, come on. But okay, I'll say it. I'm not gonna type this though on my channel because the fucking title is horrible. But 10 not quite undeniable, not always facts that don't really prove God is real. Part 2. But let's cut it off at the not quite undeniable facts that prove God is real, because that sums it up and it's rhetorically sound and it flows. So sorry, Rhinoceros guy, that I snubbed your title, but I don't like it. So sorry. But this dude does not know me. This is the first I've seen of him. In fact, he popped up on my playlist as I was saying. I fell asleep listening to the first one, part 1, and then I woke up and part 2 had just started. So I jumped in there, and that's where we're gonna take it from. I'm not really feeling up to it today, but I'm gonna give it my best shot with this dude that I don't know. He's a rhinoceros wearing a bow tie. And I'm gonna play this. Oh, as I was saying about the nihilism thing with Rachel and her peeps, I am going to get that one, but there's not really a whole lot to say about the actual conversation. As I said, it was just a bunch of pretentious hogwash, just like rhetorical scamming, really, between the two dudes, and they kind of cut Rachel off a lot, which pisses me off because she, as I said, she was a star. We'll get to it. We'll show you, but she did a hell of a job, Rachel. If you wind up watching this, you did a great job there. I'm gonna have to think about what to say though, because that particular conversation touches on a topic that's close to this and actually backs my play here. So it touches on the concept of the boundary, and it actually presents a lot of very cool opportunities to speak on that and to explain it. And so that's what we need for you guys to see, anybody who are actually fans of my channel in and of itself. we're going to have to take you to the boundary safely and bring you back safely. And their conversation actually demonstrates the dangers that lie therein. So, as I said, we'll get to that. But this one, this is at random. And I felt like responding to it instead because the other one I need to do some more planning for. And hey, fuck it. Add this rhinoceros guy to the list. Rhino guy, you're on my list. Vice Rhino. Anyway, I'm going to play you this, and then we're going to come back to it later because I want to save it. But I'll play you this short clip of his stuff.
Although I will say that you are right, in as much as the fact that a week on the Gregorian calendar has 7 days is an undeniable fact.
Fact number 9. Some things could not have evolved.
You might want to word that differently. You see, if some things could not have evolved, the implication is that most things could have. Which I will point out again, for a Christian who accepts evolution, is not a problem. But when you claim that evolution is a fraud or a hoax, admitting that most things could have evolved once again undermines your argument. You keep doing that to yourself. It makes me wonder if deep down you don't harbor some secret doubts about the veracity of creationism.
The theory of evolution attempts to explain the origin of life apart from the intervention of God.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Evolution doesn't attempt to explain the origin of life. It explains life's diversity. And it doesn't attempt to explain it apart from the intervention of God. It's just that none of the evidence points to the intervention of God.
But there are some major flaws with this theory. One of them is the fact that some living systems are so complex that they could not have evolved. The term for this is irreducible complexity. Irreducible complexity means that you have to have all of the parts of a living organism in place in order for it to work properly.
I will grant you that it is much easier to look at a complex system with many intricate working parts and say, wow, I can't imagine how that could have evolved, rather than trying to find out how it evolved. But the evidence for evolution is so strong at this point that even if we did find something whose development we could not explain, this would just essentially mean that we need to work on understanding how it developed, not that it couldn't have developed.
And that makes my point right there. That's going to be the second argument for me on my behalf. The first one is going to stand where they speak about morality. Of course, is going to be one of the first things that this other guy that he's talking to, I don't know who he is, but we're going to call him drug addict guy because I'm sorry, dude, if you happen to watch this, whomever you are, clean cut guy, pretty weird looking guy, creepy, but, and if the voice doesn't help, the sped up voice, but, if you're going to go ahead and define yourself as being a recovered drug addict who found Jesus while you were in jail, which is what this guy does, he was locked up and he found Jesus, of course, there, which, a lot of criminals seem to find Jesus when they're locked away, don't they? Odd coincidence, I suppose you could say, if you believe in coincidences, but we don't. But, he actually describes himself in that way. He presents himself in that way that he was a drug addict and then he got over that. So if you're a heavy recovered drug addict and that's your past, your origin story, then I'm sorry, but that's the fucking ticket you buy, bub. We're gonna have to refer to you as drug addict guy because I don't know your name and I don't care to. But of course, the first thing he raises is morality. Morality is given to us by God. Now, first of all, I don't know why you would even raise that. What kind of an idea is that to have? You realize that the precept with God here is the idea that God gave us free will, that God gave humanity free will, and in fact, that would be the only real gift aside from life itself that God could give. God gave us life, and then God gave us freedom of choice. And so if God then presented some sort of objective morality, that would defeat the purpose right then and there. Right out of the gate, you just blew your whole argument. So, because logic. But the Rhino guy responds, of course, to this morality. People have morality, and of course his argument is that people have like morality all over the world, and it's based somehow on the 10 Commandments, which is so fucking far off. It's unbelievable. The person next door to me, apartment 3, has a different fucking list of moral values than I do, and none of them really pressing so much from the Ten Commandments. I mean, don't kill people generally, don't steal if you can help it. But really, what else? I mean, are we like really paying attention to whether or not we accidentally furnish graven images? Whatever that means, because the only thing that I've ever seen really that I would consider to be a graven image is Jesus on the cross. So, and I mean, that's, you guys furnish that left and right. You worship it. It's a false idol. Pause for that. Let me sink that in. Anyway, Rhino guy says that the morality likely evolved due to evolution based on, that the fact that it would be advantageous to the species and to the people having this morality in play, which again would not harken back to any Ten Commandments or anything of that nature at all. The objective morality in that sense would likely be, well, please don't hurt me or somebody I care about, or I'll defend them via violence if necessary, right? Like, and they were killing animals for food and fur anyway, so, I mean, why would that even be a fucking, like, that's not even a plausible idea, morality there. Morality in general, really. Morality is a personal thing. We have moral issues and ethics imposed upon us by others, by our nurturing, our raising and whatnot, our upbringing and our families and friends and what we encounter, and our empathy. Empathy is a real thing. Morality is entirely subjective in every case. There is no standard by which morality is not entirely subjective. And you know this by looking around the world. It's that simple. But Rhino Dude says that it would have been advantageous for us as a people, as a species, and that protecting those that are familial to us would thereby protect our genes and ensure that our genes survive. Now, this is actually an argument for my case, because ultimately, we wouldn't have any idea what that meant. Genes surviving, that's not a concept that we are supposed to have had at the time. Speaking back to your caveman days or what have you, our tribal days, our primal days. Throughout our evolution in becoming what we are today, we wouldn't have had any actual realistic idea or value system regarding what genealogy is, or passing on our genetic traits, or anything of that nature. Wouldn't stand to reason. Unless, of course, you're speaking to the genes themselves acting. In what case, the genes are thereby in communication with each other somehow. They're aware of each other's presence. And this is the idea that we're getting at when I speak to a living world and a real God, is that there are forces in play that we're unaware of, that there are magnetics in play, there are gravitational forces in play, there are intelligences in play that we are not aware of, including our genes communicating, our DNA communicating, transmissions, our mitochondrial DNA. That's a big one. That's a beautiful one. Mitochondria communicating, plants communicating with each other. We've already covered that with the Baxter effect in one of the opening videos, the introductory videos for secular theology. Plants do communicate with each other, and they do have a consciousness and intelligence that in fact does have an emotional value system to it. So there's that. And that's what I'm saying there with the whole morality issue, is neither of you can really use that argument. It's flawed on either end, and in fact both of them point back towards this simple understanding that maybe we've just misidentified God in that sense. But then he speaks to the Ten Commandments and certain along the list of the 10 commandments, what commandments might be justified in breaking, or what might justify breaking them, like defending your life would justify murder thereby. And he says that he might feel bad about killing somebody to defend his family. Don't even that you don't even think that. You defend your family and take care of your own. If somebody's willing to harm your family, fuck them flat out. We under our premise, my premise, everything's a part of one entity, one soul. If there's somebody who is as crooked or cracked, as broken as it would take for them to justify murdering you or your family for no apparent reason whatsoever, perhaps to steal from you or what have you, or out of some kind of craziness, then psychopathy, then that's should be treated like an illness, a part of your system, an illness that needs to be removed, like any cancerous tumor. Fuck it. Psychopathy is not to be tolerated. I've had enough run-ins with psychopaths, and that's my personal standing. But he says that the one thing he thinks that could not be justified is rape, and he comes up with this exceptionally outrageous Rhino guy. You come up with this ridiculous arrangement as to where rape might be justified if somebody said they were going to blow up a stadium if you didn't rape another captor, which that's unnecessary. I'll justify rape. If survival of your species is determinant upon it, if you are like the last two people on Earth and she doesn't want to have sex with you, you're justified in raping her. Obviously, that's one occasion where it might be justified. Now, I likely personally wouldn't do it, and the species would die out because ultimately I'm an asshole there in that scenario. I'm unwilling to do what's necessary. But I don't think I'd do it. But still, I would be justified in having done it, for sure. Anyway, we've already spoken of the rally free will thing. Let's see. God made it. So he says that Rhino guy says that the drug addict guy says that we all have very similar or like characteristics, and of course then Rhino guy says that that's because we all evolved from similar animals or whatnot. Now again, this is an argument from my side because we're all family, we all come from the same origins, and in fact will have come from the same initial origin. That is maybe not that one origin, maybe not the God creature, as it were, but it is representative of the God value. We did, in fact, come from one point of origin, and we are all, in fact, related throughout the course of evolution, dating back as far as we can trace it, because, I mean, there are gaps in evolution, which, again, for anybody that's been arguing with me on the other lines about that, evolution has gaps in it. It has places where things don't work, things don't make sense, unless they're afforded a certain level of creation, a certain mechanic of creation in play, an intervention event that causes for things to change. And obviously, we don't see primates evolving into people, do we? We don't see primates evolving much at all of any. We don't see them evolving. So, I mean, right then and there, it doesn't really make sense. But we do trace it back, and we see that primates did in some way evolve into people, but there are gaps, and unless you allow for there to have been an intervention event that caused for that transformation to transpire, that caused for that mutation to take course, then you don't have a working theory for evolution. You certainly don't have a premise or evidence of it being the case. But it is the case, which means you have to account for an intervention. Creation happened. Creation is happening. You have to account for both. But he says that, well, if evolution, us all leading back to the same point of origin, is not the case, then God sure went out of his way to make it look like we were all related, which that was part of the introduction that I missed that part, but that's basically the same deal. Going back to the point of origin, we're all family, we're all related, we're all part of the same growth, the same organism, the same growing thing. Anyway, he brings up the flood. Drug addict guy brings up the flood, and why would everybody all over the world have these myths? And then Rhino guy says that, well, because they all live in areas that are prone to flooding or have experienced floods, and that really only Gilgamesh and the Bible are so alike like that. There are others that are very similar to. There's no need to really bring them up. The point is that we know that there was an ice age, 11,000 years ago or some such shit. You know that there is. I've heard you talk about it before. But, I mean, right then and there, that's a likely flood scenario when that thought out. But at the same time, there was certainly a flood that transpired at some point, because we're finding an entire world buried beneath us. The deeper we dig, the more we find. There are entire civilizations buried beneath us. So there's really no argument for that. There was something happened of that nature. Yes, there was some kind of a flood or something, but that doesn't prove jack shit about the fucking Bible, dipshit, because the Bible's got the dates all way off because it stole its story from previous generations who stole their story from previous generations. It's all stolen articles. I mean, not necessarily stolen, just taken and rewritten, but once it becomes a cult, then you can consider it to have been stolen. And also the factor that societies lived through the time in which this flood was supposed to have happened. Again, same deal, because the Bible's a lie. But, I mean, it's likely actual stories just taken from other people, places, and time. So, I like how he brings up the fact that the Babylonians were the first ones to come up with the working week model. That's true. And where he says that in the video I just showed you, coming back around to that now, the clip I showed you, where he says that the implication there, where he says most things could have evolved, it implies that some things could, or I don't remember what he said exactly, but some things could have evolved implies that most things could not have evolved. It implies that some things could have, is what he said. But then he says it makes him think that the dude harbors doubts about creationism, which right there, you're raising the implication that all theism is stuck on creationism, which I don't know if this drug addict guy is a creationist or not. I'm just saying that's creationism, as far as I can tell. I'm not really that learned on it, but it looks like a stupid idea to me. Especially if it argues the validity of evolution as a standing theory. But just shouldn't assume that everybody that believes in God is a creationist. I'm not saying that you do. I'm just saying don't. But anyway, he goes on to say that just because we do not understand creatures of irreducible complexity does not mean that how they developed does not mean that they didn't develop. It just means that we need to come up with a better method of investigating that. Well, I'm going to raise the same fucking argument on this side, because we have this understanding of there being a force in play, a God figure in play. And everybody's got differing versions of it. Some people have, multiple versions of it. More people, in fact, have multiple versions of it than, there's more polytheistic than there are monotheistic religions in the world. But this idea exists for a reason. It's not like just because you were given a reason that is ridiculous, absurd, bullshit, nonsense, and has damaged the world, doesn't mean you should dismiss the entirety of the concept. Just because you cannot prove, via science, via the scientific method at this time, which we're getting close to, by the way, with people dealing with the unified field theory are coming pretty close to proving that there is in fact a united single origin field in the present moment. which is what is actually happening. That is very true. I'm just waiting on them to come up with the rock solid evidence to show you guys. But just because you cannot at this moment prove that there is a God figure in play, that we are all part of this united entity, which, I mean, it's common sense. It's obvious. It's not like, it's not hiding from you. Everybody is part of one thing. It's a stupid idea to consider anything otherwise. But again, we're not speaking to Christianity's God. We're speaking to the presence of a real God. Just because you can't prove it to be the case right now, especially with the logics that you've been given from modern religion, doesn't mean that it is not the case. And the fact that it has been the general bottom line base of all mythologies since forever would highly imply that it is the case, that there's a reason for that. Maybe we should be finding better methods by which to investigate that, rather than just discarding it altogether, and dismissing our own spirituality ultimately because we were given a bad apple. Essentially, that bad apple in the Garden of Eden is what's fucking us all over right now. It's the reality of it. But then his last argument, drug addict guy, was belief changes lives. That is really stupid, man. And I don't know why you would have even fucking said that. belief in Batman changes people's lives, man. You're relegating God to this belief structure, this absurdity, like belief it. If I believed that my cat had supernatural powers, that would change my life to some extent. If I believed that, cans of spinach gave you giant muscles, that would change my life to some extent. Not to mention the factor that there's psychosomatic forces in play, which are actually the bottom line. Time mechanics or principle dynamics now works towards that specifically. The psychosomatic relationship between value and matter, and how you can, in fact, influence your own personal evolution and physiology via placebo. That's becoming a rock hard science, and we're developing it as a working rock hard science for principle dynamics, along with synchronicity and everything else. Is the God concept, my idea of the God concept, that's not like the bottom line of this. It's just an ideology for secular theology, and it's something that I feel about because I don't like that both Christianity and atheism are attacking the concept of God, destroying it, attempting to destroy and eliminate, disconnect humanity from its spirituality. God is the concept of unity, of connectedness between us all, of connection and of divinity, and of just generally a working force in play that is shared by all of us, which again is simply the laws of physics. It's always going to be the laws of physics, and discarding that, disconnecting from that because Christianity gave you a bad idea about it. You guys don't realize you're being played. That's what Christianity wants you to do. They want you to fire that bullet. They want you to put an end to God so that they can take every fucking thing. They've got your soul. They want your money. They already have the whole world held hostage, and now they've got kind of radical groups of atheists directly assaulting the concept of God itself. They want you to do that, man. They want you to do that. I'm telling you. But anyway, he also speaks about how belief has helped people with addiction, and yes, of course it can, but no, as Rhino guy says, it's not going to help in every case. And if you do have problems with addiction, you need to contact the people that are in. I'll put a link to this original video, which you can go to, and he has links in his description to various outlets that can assist. Do not go to fucking NA or AA. They are a cult as well. They're 12-step bullshit. Believe in a higher power. But the very first thing that you have to do is forfeit your power by accepting that some greater force controls you. That's wrong. Right out the gate. First step, wrong. that's eliminating your personal innate power as a human individual. So no, please don't join a cult. Go to one of his things, or you can contact me, and contact Project Philanthropy through me, and we will actually help you with tried and tested methods by which to cure addictions that are very effective and beneficial for everybody. You can benefit us by doing that, in fact, and we'll help you out as best we can. Which we have actual alternative avenues by which, we have the herbal supplements and such that can get you off of things that are very effective. That are exceptionally effective and healthy and beneficial for you, that we can hook you up with to help with that. If you have addictions, you can come to us, or you can go to Rhino Guy's channel, Vice Rhino, and check him out. Watch his videos, like and subscribe if you want to. Like and subscribe my shit. Hopefully, if you want to, I hope you do, because we're just kicking off here, and I understand that I'm kind of against everybody, and I am kind of an asshole, but that doesn't make me a bad guy, and I'm certainly not wrong. So, anyway, final question for Rhino Guy, if you could tell me, who is the redhead chick with the guns? What's up with that? She's in every one of your videos. Maybe she's like your wife or something, I guess. That's cool. If she's not your wife, though, maybe hook me up. Number? Meeting? Anyway, I like redheads. I like girls with guns, too. So, she's very beautiful, whomever she is. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you all watching for your time. Thanks to everybody for everything. Kila Salai, Tervi Unisio, Namaste.